Go.
Hello and welcome to my presentation for the Research and Practice module, Assessment 2. Today I'm going to be talking about my choices for my Level 6 pathway and why I've chosen them. My aims and objectives for my dissertation is going to be to investigate whether the lack of live, free-to-air international cricket in the UK could lead to further drops in participation. So I'm going to try to investigate why cricket behind a paywall has negatively impacted those participation levels. So one of my objectives is going to be investigating how much participation levels have decreased with the use of quantitative data, and whether free-to-air sport is a big driver in getting people to participate. So for example, rugby has a lot of its international games broadcast live on free-to-air, and its participation numbers have significantly increased in the last few years. And also, how likely is free-to-air cricket to return in the future? If so, when? So in terms of my justification as to why I've chosen to do a dissertation and why I've chosen this subject, I'm passionate about it. I've been a follower of cricket since I was a very, very young boy. It's also relevant to the current world of cricket and of sports business. There's been a new TV deal for 10 years. It's recently been signed by the ECB, which is going to keep cricket behind a paywall. And as ever, broadcasting is a changing landscape, and it's only going to become more prevalent in future years. And on top of that, dissertations are an excellent opportunity in order to research further into a topic and to be able to enhance expertise and knowledge and be able to refine their skills. So from the course so far, some of the transferable skills that I've been able to gain is studying the sports broadcasting module for my elective. So that's given me a good overview and insight into why broadcasting deals are how they are, why they are so important for sports governing bodies, and why it's such a big earner of money for them. I also got a very good understanding of the sport of cricket. I've been a fan, I've played it to a decent level as well. I've also got good links to local and recreational clubs. And this is going to help me with my collection of data, particularly my qualitative data. So in terms of some of the theoretical framework which supports some of what I'm saying and also analyses the industry of broadcasting within cricket, Williams, Bateman and Hill in 2011 did a complete overview of broadcasting within cricket. So that covers all kinds of things from how it first started, why cricket became popular, why it may have tailed off, and what the future could potentially hold. As well as that, Batchelor did an industry report in 2018 which specifically looked at domestic T20 cricket, and that paper also looked at the possibility of a new T20 competition coming into the English game, which we saw last year with the 100. So that's good to refer back to and see how his findings have now come to fruition with a new free-to-air competition, and also how that could have socio-economic impacts on engaging people who've not maybe been enticed by cricket before, whether it be playing or watching. So it's good to have a look at that and see how that may have positively or negatively impacted participation. Beltrame in 2011 has a look more specifically at Australian cricket, which is good for making comparisons because Australia has a lot of their live international cricket broadcast on free-to-air TV. So as a result of that, they're able to engage more people in the game, and subsequently that's created a bigger fan base, a bigger pathway for them, and more players to pick from for their international teams. Duffield and Drinkwater in 2008 looks specifically and analyses the differences between Test match cricket and one-day international cricket. This was done in 2008, and since then the rise of T20 has been astronomical, and there is an argument to say that T20 is maybe overtaken Test match cricket or one-day international cricket. So it's going to be good to investigate that, see whether there is still an appetite for all three formats of the game, or if one is taking over the other, and how that relates to demographic. Do younger people still want to watch Test match cricket? Are they more interested in T20? Are older people coming to T20 and understanding it a bit more now that it's become more prevalent and more impactful in the game? So as you can see on the graph, participation levels have dropped off in cricket from the years in England from 2007 to 2016. This was from Statista in 2016, and that correlates with when cricket was taken off free-to-air, taken off free-to-air TV. As a result of that, there has been a significant decline over a number of years. Statista, as I'm going to talk about in a second when I come on to my quantitative data, is a good way of analysing statistics, and there's a lot of information there about the ECB's turnover and about how they've invested or not invested into grassroots cricket, which is also going to have severe impacts on participation levels. So for my research methods, I'm going to use mixed methods of research using both quantitative and qualitative data. Quantitative data is going to be able to illustrate the changes in numbers and demographics of people participating in the game. This could be class structures, differences in areas, differences in incomes, ethnic backgrounds, how that may or not impact those figures. As well as that, I'm going to investigate viewing figures. Is there appetite for one format of the game, as I mentioned earlier, or all three formats still something that the majority of cricket consumers want to watch? And also the financial details of broadcasting deals within cricket. Is there sufficient money to be able to entice younger people into the game, whether it be through grassroots, whether it be through academy programs or investment into club cricket? And qualitative data is going to give me more evidence on the impact of participation levels at local and recreational levels. So for my quantitative research, statistics are going to be used to analyse and evaluate what I just mentioned about viewing figures and the financial impact of subscription broadcasting, and that's going to be structured data that's been found by a secondary source, and it's hard data which cannot be changed. As well as that, surveys are going to be carried out about participation in the local area via local cricket clubs and social media. And the use of social media is going to help me gain a perspective not just of Leeds and West Yorkshire, but of the whole of the country. So it's going to be interesting to see if there's certain trends between different parts of the country, if there's more participation in areas where there are strong county teams, and if there is less of a participation in areas where there's not. Quantitative data uses numbers and tends to be based on numerical measurements. So for my qualitative research, I'm hoping to interview local coaches, volunteers and representatives about participation in the game, particularly those who were involved in the game at that switch in 2006, where cricket went away from free-to-air coverage and went behind a paywall. If they then noticed a difference in interests with new people coming to the club with memberships, and see how the landscape may or may not have changed. And as well as that, questions are going to be asked to identify if they believe that the dwindling of interest has carried on, as the stats would suggest, after cricket was moved behind a paywall. Another option as well could try and create a focus group of all of those people that I interview. This will help me identify any trends and patterns that may or may not have occurred. So if there's a sudden rise when England were doing well at the turn of the decade, and if that has decreased over time when the England national team haven't been doing so well, or if they're in areas where there's a county team who have been performing well, if that's increased participation, and if they haven't been performing well, whether that's lower participation levels and lower the interest in the game. There's my references there. Thank you very much for listening.